Hello and welcome to part 75. In this video, we will see what is a queue in C Sharp. Queue is a generic FIFO. We call it FIFO also. It stands for first in, first out collection that present in System.Collection.Generic namespace. We have already seen dictionary and list. Those two are also example of generic collection. Generic collection means we can store any type of data inside those, right? If you remember from the last videos, we were storing complex data or simple data inside the list and dictionaries, right? So now let's understand about queue collection also. The queue collection is analogous to a queue at the ATM machine to withdraw money, right? The order in which people are queuing up will be the order in which they will be able to get out of the queue and withdraw money from the ATM. If you have ever visited to an ATM, you might be seeing queue there. So whoever is coming first will be the person who will be withdrawing the money first. So the queue collection operates in a similar fashion. The first item to be added, we can say enqueued also, in queue terms, will be the first item to be removed or de-enqueued from the queue, right? To add items in the end of the queue, we use enqueue method, and to remove an item that is present at the beginning of the queue, we use dequeue method. So I have opened up my Visual Studio. To understand the queue, let's create a method first. Public static void main, right? And let's create a queue using the queue class. And it is of generic type, so we can provide integer, float, string, any simple data type. And again, because it is generic type, we can provide something complex data type also, let's say customer. So those things will also work just like a list and a dictionary. So for now, let's create a queue that will store string data type. So I will provide string within my angular brackets, and let's call it names. And let's use the new keyword and create a queue, right? And now to add elements or to add items in a queue, we will use .enqueue method. If you remember, in the list, we were using .add method. Similarly, in names, we have enqueue method. And if you see, enqueue is taking an element of type string. Because we have created the queue of type string, so we can only store string in it. And if I try to add some other data type, let's say I will try to add integer, we will get the compilation error. It will say we are not able to convert int to string. Okay, so queue provides the type safety also, just like list and dictionaries. So let's add some name, let's say Mark. Okay, so this is how you will add a item inside the queue. Let's add 3 names. So I have added 3 names in my queue, and to access the elements from the queue, there are 2 methods. Let's see first one, that is dequeue. Okay, so just like in queue, we can use dequeue to remove the first element from the queue. Let's say string output equal to names.dequeue. Okay, so if you hover over on dequeue method, you will see it will return a string because the queue is of string type, and whatever the name will come, that we will get from the output. Okay, so now let's see what we will get when we get the output. Okay, so we are not specifying any index or any kind of parameters here. We are just calling the dequeue method. So by default, queue are designed in such a way, the first element that we are adding, that will be the first element that we will get out of the queue, correct? If I run my program, you will see we will get the first element, that is Mark, correct? We'll see Mark here. And if I run my dequeue method again, let's copy paste these lines and put it here. Let's call it output 2 this time. And if we run the program again, we'll see first we got the Mark, then we got the Pam. And if I check the number of elements present in my queue, let's see what will happen. Let's put a console write line let's say number of elements in queue equal to, we can use names dot count. So using the count property, we can find the number of elements present in the queue. Okay, so let's put it after this and after the second dequeue method also. So what we are doing, we are dequeuing the element twice and we are printing the number of elements after that. Let's see what will happen. Let's do one thing. Let's put this line console.write line before dequeuing any element. So okay, so this will be the initial count and we'll see the count as and when we dequeue the elements. If I run my program now, you will notice first we had the element number of elements 3 in the queue, then we dequeued mark, then mark is removed from the queue and we got only 2 elements in the queue, and then we dequeued pam, and then the final count will be the 1. So what I'm trying to say here, whenever you will call dequeue method, it will remove the element from the queue, right? Because it is first in, first out. Let's go back to slides now. So we have seen how we can use enqueue and dequeue. Okay, so we can use for each loop also to iterate through the elements in the queue, but it will not remove the items, right? And we can also use contains method to check if an element is present in the queue or not. Let's see both of these in Visual Studio. So instead of calling dequeue, because dequeue will remove the element, but if you just want to see what are the elements present in my queue, you can use a for each loop. Let me show you how. If I run my program, you will see we got all 3 elements. If I try to print the count after printing all the elements, you can see we still have 3 elements inside the queue, because when we run the for each loop, it will only just get that element and print that. It will not remove that element from the queue. If you want to remove the element from the queue, you need to use the denqueue method. And we can use contains method to check if an element is present or not. Okay, so for that, let's see how we can use contains. So if you put contains here and put bracket here, it will give you the suggestion what you can check. So contains, we can provide the item that you want to check. Let's see, I want to check if pam is present in my queue or not. Okay, let's store this output. So whatever result we will get from contains method, that will be stored in the result, and because it will return a boolean, so I need to change my return type to boolean. Okay, once that is done, let's go ahead and print the result using console.write line. And because spam is present, so as expected we will get true here. And if I say something random value xyz and run it again, we will get the false. So now we know what is enqueue, what is dequeue, and what is contains method will do. Okay, but if you want to see what is the first element present at the beginning of the queue, what you can do, you can use peek method. Let me show you how. String space result names dot peek. Okay, if I hover over on peek method, you can see here returns the object at the beginning of the queue without removing it, because dequeue will remove the element from the beginning, but if you use the peek method, it will not remove that from the beginning. If I say console.write line and print the result, and let's do one thing, let's do the same thing again. We will again peek it and let's call it result2 and run the program. You will notice we will get mark 2 times, because peek will not remove the element. Using peek, we can just see the element which is present at the beginning of the queue, right? So we call the peek, we got mark, and the element is not removed. That's why. But line number 20, when we called peek again, we again got the mark, because mark is still present at the beginning of the queue, right? Okay. So this is one of the interview question also. What is the difference between dequeue and peak? So here's the difference. Dequeue method will remove and return the item from the beginning of the queue, whereas peak returns the item at the beginning of the queue without removing it. So both will return the item that is present at the beginning, but dequeue will remove the item, peak will not remove the item. And guys, to prove that we can store complex data type also inside the dictionary, let's create a complex data type. Let's call it customer. And this customer has four properties: ID, name, email, and phone number. Now let's create some objects. So I have created 5 objects of this class using some random data. And now let's create a queue collection that can store customer type, right? So let's call it customers and queue. And we can use customer dot enqueue method, and this time if you hover over on enqueue method, you will see it expect a customer type. And similar to enqueue, you can dequeue the elements also. So if I say customer result equal to customer.dequeue, I will get the first element that is in the queue, and we only have one element, that is customer one, so we will receive the customer one in the result. And if I print name of the customer like this and run my program, you will notice we will get the John Doe here because it was the first element in the queue. All right, so this is how you can use queue with the complex data type also. And that's it for this video, guys. In the next video, we will try to create a simple program using queue.